language learning is very much that search for a certain kind of transformation. And it has nothing to do with not wanting to be oneself, but it has a lot to do with aspiring to something more.
Right.
You know,
Well, I would say to be more yourself.
Exactly. And
Because
also with great clarity, because for instance, I know that I can navigate everyday conversation more and more and more competently. But we're not, thankfully, no one in any grocery store is going to ask me about Heidegger.
I don't know. Maybe.
You know,
What if
fascinating though
anyone out
that
there, if you
might
ever
be.
run into Paul, ask him about Heidegger, whatever else is going on.
It could be wonderful, but it will be filled with long, silent, and pensive pauses.
Heidegger was good. Yes.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, I do aspire to reading the newspaper and reading various Japanese literary magazines and stuff like that. Those are aspirations that I carry, and there are a couple of thousand kanji that you need to know to be able to read the newspaper. I'm quite serious. It's like 1900, 2000, something like that, that you need to know to be able to read the newspaper.
Yeah.
And I march along every day.
Wow.
So distant though that that goal may be.
Yeah.
My experience with speaking has helped me to not see that goal as impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's another thing that comes up in this book is a kind of affirmation that this process is not a balanced process. We don't move ahead in this process smoothly.
Yeah.
It's a very, as we were talking earlier, it's a very dynamic process. But that's part of its excitement, and that's part of its ability to transform us.
Right. Oh, wait, I want to back up for a second, though, because I was waving my hands like this because I realized something, which was that you talked about the shame of living in a country for a long time and not speaking its language. And I felt the same. I felt the same way. And the loneliness and the frustration of sitting in a room where everyone else is having a conversation over your head. And I got into a vicious cycle for me where I would feel bad because I wasn't able to follow the conversation, which would demotivate me,
Right.
which would make me also unable to continue to follow conversations. And I wish I had known then what I figured out 30 seconds ago, which was that when you want to learn a foreign language, it's because you want to be more yourself. Because when you're not able to speak the language, you're not yourself. You can't show up the way that you want to in a conversation. You're either a baby or you're part of the furniture. And you can't be me. I like going to social events and meeting new people and learning about what their deal is and telling them things about myself. So I wish that Becoming Fluent did more to talk about that. They talk about it a little bit, but they don't dig into the problem of motivation. Like, what do you have to do every day in order to climb this enormous mountain? They have a picture of an enormous mountain on the front of the book.
Right.
But I think that there's something here that's the same as for any big effort, like you're trying to write a book or paint a mural or uh, launch a product, and it's a job that will take several years at least, and you have to do some minuscule amount of that every day. Tunnel your way out of prison with a spoon. So how do you keep doing that?
That's such a great point, and it's such a great critique on the book, and my feeling is similar in that I felt from time to time that I felt frustrated by the book in that, for instance, they would bring up things like self-efficacy, and it would rivet my attention, and it's wonderfully described and all those sorts of things. And then at other pages, they're talking about, kind of like what's new in cognitive science.
Yeah, right, right.
And I just felt, I felt, well, honestly, I felt bewildered by that, because I thought, why would you think that matters to me? And
Right.
it certainly isn't presented in a way that's compelling to link it to these more powerful aspects of the book. It seems like pages that were accidentally slipped in there from another article or something. but um, and what happens in that when we start learning about what's new in cognitive science, and what's happening is a kind of abandonment of the very things that brought us to the book. Now you're not talking about these dilemmas that we're trying to work our way through. You're talking about the dilemma of being a cognitive scientist. I'm sure it's fascinating. And if I knew as many languages as you do, maybe I'd feel comfortable worrying about cognitive sciences, but I don't. I'm
I
stuck
have
with it.
a I have a theory, or maybe it's a diagnosis of. I think that they fell into the trap of hiding an abstraction. Uh, it's the best part of the book for me. The part of the book that keeps coming back to my mind is actually not particularly about language. And it's certainly not about cognitive science. It's at the very end where one of the authors went to Switzerland and he tried to wait to be seated in a restaurant, and all of the staff of the restaurant is like, "What is this guy doing, standing there and pacing back and forth in front of the front of the restaurant? If he were here to eat, he would take a seat. If he wanted something else, why doesn't he come talk to us? Is he insane? Like, what is this?" And it was a really powerful example of uh, assumptions passing in the night, uh,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is of tremendous importance to communication, and not just intercultural communication. Plenty of people who have exactly the same culture make these mistakes and are never even aware of it. They're like, "Oh, that guy was a jerk to me," and
yeah,
you're unaware of the fact that that guy had a completely different story that he was playing through than your story, and both of you just bewildered each other
yeah.
because life is full of chaos. That was the best part of that book to me. But I know from experience that it's scary to write that sort of thing.
Yeah,
And
I didn't think of
so
that. Yeah,
and
yeah,
so I wonder whether it's just a matter of finding comfort in those dry abstractions. Cognitive science, let's talk about that for a while. It's not scary at all. It's just a bunch of words. And you don't need to expose your deep, dark secrets. Uh, I mean, maybe that's just me. I've found in the past couple of years that when I feel like I ought to start talking about abstractions, instead, what I should do is talking about something personal.
yeah. I
And
recognize what
so
you're saying there. I
I
recognize.
might be projecting onto these guys, but that sort of book is more. That's the if they write Becoming Fluent again, that's what I would like to see.
Yeah, I also think that. mm, so part of this, whatever this is that I'm trying to describe, that we're trying to describe, there's a chapter in here called Making Memories. And I thought that was a very promising title. And I was kind of looking for something, deeply tangible about it. And we got part of the way there. But as a language learner, I recognize that when I go out and when it happens that I acquire a new language, in everyday life, it's usually a pretty poignant kind of situation. It's sort of terrifying to think that you can have 3 of those in a day, but
Right.
but
Oh, God. Is that what learning a language is? It's having one poignant situation after another.